Hi, and welcome back to Wandering Wild. I'm glad you could join me for another Forgotten Friday. Today, we're going to talk all about the Amur leopard. The Amur leopard is a leopard species native to the Primorye region of Russia as well as northeast China. Now, unlike many of the species we've talked about here on Forgotten Fridays, the Amur leopard is not actually extinct. There are still some in the wild. However, it is classified as critically endangered, as there's thought to only be about 60 adults left in the wild today. So we're going to be talking about it today, as pretty much it's already been forgotten. There's so little left and so few to continue on their species that they're on the fast track to extinction. However, there are things we can do to prevent their extinction, and so it's really important that we remember them before they're gone forever. Now, the Amur leopard is a subspecies of leopard. It's not its own unique species, and it's actually unique in many kind of ways, especially in its coat. So it has a very thick fur coat because it's found in colder regions, and this coat has longer fur than is usually seen on leopard species. But the Amur leopard's coat is actually usually a pale cream to almost a white color with the spots, helping them blend in their sometimes snow-covered environments. Now, on their flanks, they have rosettes, and then on the rest of their body, they have complete rings that have a darker center, and that's how you kind of differentiate their spots. Now, Amur leopards are crepuscular, so what this means is that they hunt mostly at dawn and dusk. So they're going to come out when the sun starts to set, and then they may rest during the nighttime hours around midnight, and then they're going to come back out at dawn to do the rest of their hunting. Now, Amur leopards are very solitary creatures, and so you're really not going to see more than one leopard together unless they're mating or it's a female with her cubs. Now, they're also very picky about their ranges, and so they're going to almost always choose a territory that has a river basin, and because of this, sometimes their territories do overlap. And these territories are going to be bigger in the winter when food is harder to find, and smaller in the summer when they don't have to go as far to find food. Cubs are born from April to June, and there's usually litters from about 1 to 4, and they're going to stay with their mothers until they're about 1.5 to 2 years old. Now, the Amur leopard was actually first described in 1857, so we haven't actually known about this subspecies for that long. And it's the only Pantheropardus subspecies that's adapted for snowy, mountainous climates. Now, originally, the Amur leopard's range included much of Manchurian China all the way into the Korean peninsula, as well as that huge Primorye region of Russia. However, in the 70s is when they really saw that habitat loss, and they said that they lost about 80% of their habitat just in the 70s alone. And this reduction in habitat is actually what got their association with mountains. So before that, they weren't only related with mountains, but once their habitat was whittled down to this smaller region, that's their only niche. They do well with mountains, and they, along with the Amur tiger, are the only two large cats up there. And because of this, now they are confined to mountainous regions, and usually regions where Sitka deer are found readily, or there's deer husbandry or deer farming that they can kind of raid, which, as you would think, makes them not a friend of the deer farmer. Now, the reason the numbers of this animal were reduced so quickly is not only due to that habitat loss, which was caused by increases in agriculture as well as urban development, but also the prey they hunt, like the Sitka deer, was overhunted in abundance. And so that means that though there may have been room for more Amur leopards, there wasn't anything for them to eat. And so that's a really big limiting factor for these animals. These animals were also poached for their fur because they have a very thick, very lustrous, very warm coat that was often desired to make coats up in these colder regions. Now, even though now that there are some restrictions on that and you're not allowed to hunt these animals, as always, poaching still exists. At one time, an Amur leopard's coat would be sold for $500 to $1,000. Another reason it's hard to bring these animals back is because there's only 60 animals out there, and that's actually an increased number from a little bit before that when they thought it maybe was down to 30. For this reason, they have what's called a decreased gene pool, and so there's been a lot of inbreeding. And there's not a lot of new genetic material coming in. And so a lot of times the leopards that are born have some genetic defects and they're just not as healthy as an Amur leopard should be, or that would help it to survive longer. So there's a lot of turnover. So we may have 60 Amur leopards in the wild, but over 5 years, those could be 60 completely different animals just because they're not as healthy as they should be because of that decreased gene pool. Now, we do know, thanks to camera tracking and snow trapping, that the population of these leopards over the last 30 years has been very stable. So what camera trapping is when cameras are set up in remote areas where it's really hard to get to, which is quintessentially where these leopards live, and when there's movement in front of the camera, it takes a snapshot of whatever it is that caused the movement. So first off, whoever's going through this data, they're going to get a lot of squirrels and deer and other things. And then every once in a while, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, leopard. And that's kind of how we get our count estimates. Otherwise, it'd be virtually impossible to know how many animals there are in this remote area. Now, this means that there is great potential for an increase in the population of the Amur leopard because its numbers aren't being depleted. And so with stabilization, that means there can be things that we can do to take action and to bring back this animal. Now, currently, the Amur Leopard and Tiger Alliance, which is a group of Russian and Western conservation units, is working to bring back both the Amur leopard and the Amur tiger, another large cat in this area that's dealing with the same issues. And they're working very hard. They're trying to maintain that habitat and make sure that at least the situation does not get worse. And so they have summits and they have meetings where they talk about what best can be done to help these animals, as well as possibly from zoo animals, maybe reintroducing them into the wild and just trying to up their numbers and get some more genetic material flowing around so that the Amur leopards that we do have are the most healthy that they can be. If you're interested in learning more about the Amur Leopard and Tiger Alliance, I've put a link down in the description box below to their website so you can get all sorts of information on what has been done to help and what they're going to do to help in the future, and even get involved yourself with things like donations. So I'll leave that up to you. Go out, conquer, and bring back a species that for too long was forgotten, but maybe we can keep from being lost. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Forgotten Friday. As always, those sources are down in the description box below, and if you liked what you saw, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and then click the little bell so that you get notifications so you'll never miss another video. And as always, stay wild and never stop wondering.